Hello tutors, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. It's another of the Perry Miniatures 40mm Napoleonics for the Peninsular War, so Spain and Portugal in the Napoleonic Wars. This guy is a French Voltigeur, well, that's French Voltigeur, but he's a Swiss. They are both us and the Swiss used to hire themselves out as mercenaries, and the French recruited several regiments. In fact, I think the King Louis, the last King Louis, I can't remember his number, but he was protected by Swiss Guard, which didn't really do him much good when they stormed Versailles. But the French continued to use them, and we did as well. We had several Swiss regiments, or at least a couple. I think they mainly made them up, obviously because of recruiting, getting them and that. I think they were mainly used up as used from French prisoners of war, Swiss prisoners of war, who weren't that fussed on who they fought for as long as they were getting paid. But the jacket I've done slightly different. I've used not so much like the brick red, so this sergeant here I'm painting for the last one of this group, the 52nd. As you can see, he's more of an orangey look, and this guy's got more of a cold red, I suppose you could say. As I was reading in my my latest Swiss regiments in French service book, their jackets probably faded to exactly the same as the British ones did, because they were using the same type of vegetable dyes or madder dyes, you know, to do it. So I think it's more us as painters, we tend to like to show a difference in the Swiss uniforms, and I've gone down the same track. I didn't want an exact brick red one, so this is what I've gone with. I've kept this guy clean. All these ones I'm doing, I paint them as the whim. You know how I decide I'm going to paint them at the time. So some of them are clean, like this guy's clean, no dirt on him or anything. There's a few scratches on the scabbard of the sword and on the cartridge box, but they are only just like fresh scratches. I've not done a really beat up cartridge box with the black leather removed and just the older leather underneath. You could do the backpacks, you know, with the different cow skin, white and brown. I just decided to leave him the way he was. So this is this is the 2nd regiment. So it's like they say it's imperial. It's not the royal blue they call it, but I've used I think it's AK. I can't remember if it's AK. Yeah, I think it's AK's imperial blue. There are some photographs at the end for anybody that wants to look at them. The base, I decided from the start, one, because he's got the musket, he's obviously ramming a ball home on the musket, and I wasn't sure how well it would sit on the base, and it came into my mind I wanted to do a couple a bit more raised up, as if they were fighting over like that Spanish peninsula type Portuguese rocky terrain. So it's a bit of blue foam, that high density blue foam. That's really solid. It's just PVA down. I use a 10-minute PVA wood glue, and it's really strong. And it's also what I glue the figures to the bottle tops with as well, because it tends to hold them in place quite well. And normally I would put the figure to the base first. I'd run out of bases, so I had to just put them straight to the bottle tops, and then they just literally put a scalpel underneath, and they'll just flip straight off. But while the PVA was wet, I'd broken up a ton of these little cork pieces, and I'd put fresh glue around the base, because I was just using, there's no super glue on this, which isn't, let's face it, super glue is great for holding stuff immediately, but it's not good, you know, any movement and it'll break off, which is why I like using the PVA. And I just made sure I'd got some lot smaller rocks. I put no sand in this apart from at the very bottom here, and I just made sure all those rocks were glued all the way tight round as well on top of the fresh glue, just to give it more stability. And then when I'd done the rocks and the bit of sand here, I use the same glue, but I put water in it, so it's almost like watery glue, and then give it like 10 minutes for this to go off, and then use the watery glue all over it again. It just helps seal everything in. It makes the painting process a bit easier, and it just adds that extra layer of glue in amongst the rocks, just to keep them, you know, actually quite taut. I deliberately pushed it over to one side, again just for a bit of difference really. Normally you can obviously hide if you've got some blue foam showing that you haven't been able to get into, you can put some shrubs in, but honestly these ones here are just where I managed to get around it all. I painted them a dark brown with a bit of black in it, just so it gives some shadows in amongst the rocks. And then I used, I think it was an REF brown, and then canvas brown, I believe. No, I didn't. Yeah, canvas brown. Then like a orange brown, and like orange beige or something like that, just to give it its orange hues. And then I went over with a silver grey just to do all the edge highlighting on the rocks. But I've tried to show it where like this line of little grass tufts are lying in a, you know, where maybe a bit of moisture lies in amongst the rocks. And then lower down I've put the darker stuff where maybe the moisture would come down, you know, off the rocks, and they're a bit darker green in the crevices. So yeah, very, very enjoyable. As I say, this guy's got yellow piping on a royal blue background to the cuffs, and that the turnbacks are white, yellow hunting horns. I've gone for just doing the yellow drinking canteen cord. There is some, like the couple, I've got the Osprey book, but which also I believe mentions there might be green. These are called half moons. If there's nobody that likes Napoleonics, on the top of the crescent they're either crescents or half moons. Well, crescent is the word I was after actually, rather than half moons. But anyway, they can be green if you want to put them green. There is some evidence that they were green as well. It just depended on the French are a nightmare for painting, because their uniforms change at a whim so many times. So yeah, really enjoyable figure. And as I say, it's completely. I mean, obviously, it doesn't look very stable at the moment because it's on a sticky thing on top of a thing. But I tried it before I stuck it down, and it was completely. It's not top heavy at all. I mean, if you did it on an outcrop like the 40K, then you're probably going to have it falling over, especially it's a metal figure. But again, these were designed by Perry for skirmish gaming, and obviously you can put them in your cabinet as well to represent different regiments. So got this one down. That's number 3. 4, as you can see, took a hiatus on him because I just wanted to finish off some Warlord Epic, and I've been doing a fair bit of work on HMS Kent. But today until tonight, when I'm doing more work on HMS Kent, I'll be working on this guy, see if I can get him a bit further forward. He should be ready, hopefully, though, because by the way, these haven't been varnished yet. But I'm just waiting for this guy. I'm going to knock his cartridge box and everything up a bit more yet, and it's only a basic colour on the backpack, and that's all got to be changed around. So the one thing you might notice, Sergeant Stripes here. There's the other side, the other stripe is I've just painted over. Well, it's upside down, so they've obviously cocked that one up somewhere along the line. So I didn't notice that, as usual with Gav, until I'd done a load of painting. So somehow I'm going to have to, when I looked on that, they've got him painted up and the sergeant stripes up the right way, and there's no other way. I mean, I've put the arm on, you know, there's no other way it can go, so I'd imagine it's just to stuff up. So I'll just have to try and remedy that best I can, without hopefully taking all the paint off around it. We'll work our way around. But yeah, the jacket's I might darken it in places. I think I've gone a bit over orange, but I wanted that real beat up campaign look. But I like I've just put two basic colours so far on the strapping, which is a buff. This is 52nd Light Infantry. So unlike the 95th Rifles, they had the normal muskets, and I mean, as in they weren't rifled, but they used light infantry tactics. You see his horn up there. So yeah, he'll be up next hopefully in a few days, and then we'll hopefully get him up for sale. So there you go, one last look, photographs at the end. Really nice figure, beautiful face to paint, and very enjoyable. Yeah, I can't. There hasn't been one of these I've not enjoyed. As I say, this guy, yeah, he's got his stripes on upside down for some reason, but we'll work around that. And if I had have paid attention, I would have noticed it. I would have faffed around with it when it was bare metal. Oh well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So look after yourselves. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch each other soon on another video.